What shakes a woman to her core isn't the things most men assume. It isn't your anger when you explode, raising your voice or throwing your frustration out in the open. It isn't when you block her number, delete her photos, or cut ties in a rush of emotion. It isn't even when you beg her to understand, when you cry in front of her, or when you pour your heart out one last time hoping she finally sees your worth. Those moments may sting, but they are predictable. She expects those reactions, and because they are expected, they lose their weight over time. What truly rattles her, what pierces through all her defenses, is something far quieter. It is when you stop trying. When the man who once went out of his way to reassure her, to hold the relationship together, suddenly becomes calm, steady, and unbothered. That silence is sharper than any argument, more powerful than any display of anger, because it doesn't just signal distance, it signals transformation. She doesn't just see a man pulling away, she feels a man becoming unreachable. It isn't the storm that frightens her, it's the stillness afterward, when she realizes something irreversible has shifted inside of you. The endless explanations are gone, the desperate attempts to make her understand are gone, the patience that once seemed limitless has vanished. For the first time, she looks at you and sees a man she no longer recognizes, the man who once bent himself to keep her happy no longer bends at all. That silence becomes the loudest message you'll ever send, and it lingers in her chest because it means she no longer has the influence she once thought was permanent. That quiet truth shakes her in a way no words ever could. At first, she doesn't even realize anything has changed. She assumes you're still locked in the same familiar loop, the one she grew comfortable controlling. She thinks you'll keep chasing the way you always have, that you'll keep proving yourself, keep extending your hand no matter how many times she pulls away. She expects the long, thoughtful texts after her short, dismissive replies. She expects you to call late at night after she's ignored you all day, just to make sure she's okay. She expects the patience you've always shown when she vanishes without explanation, knowing you'll wait there, ready to welcome her back with open arms. But this time is different. Something small shifts at first, almost invisible, but undeniable to you. You don't respond with the same urgency, you don't bend the same way. The energy you once poured into chasing is no longer there, and that breaks the pattern she counted on. And here's the thing, women don't truly fear distance, because distance can always be measured. They fear unpredictability, the sudden break in routine, the mystery of not knowing where they stand. For so long she felt certain she could anticipate your every move, your every response, but now she's faced with a version of you she cannot read. The silence where your reassurance used to be unsettles her more than anger ever did. The calm refusal to explain yourself throws her off balance because it means you're no longer bound to her rhythm. Suddenly she isn't sure if you'll call, if you'll text, if you'll react at all. And that uncertainty, that disruption of her expectations, plants a quiet fear inside her. For the first time, she feels the ground beneath her shift, and she realizes her grip on you isn't what she thought it was. Every time she stirred up conflict before, you gave her exactly what she wanted, your energy. Whether it was through your anger, your frustration, your explanations, or your attempts to calm her down, you were feeding the fire she lit. She knew that no matter how cold she acted, no matter how distant or dismissive she became, you would always respond. That response gave her a sense of control, a sense of power, because she could predict it. She knew the buttons to push and the strings to pull, and each reaction from you proved that she still had a hold over your emotions. But then the day comes when you stop reacting. You no longer rise to the bait, no longer waste your breath explaining yourself, no longer let her moods dictate yours. She sends silence, and you answer with peace. She throws attitude, sharp words, and indifference, and you don't flinch. She disappears for days, and this time, you don't follow. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't even ask where she went. And suddenly the game is no longer fun for her, because what kept her in control is gone. Without your reaction, there's no fuel, no spark, no satisfaction. It feels empty to her now, because she realizes the weight of indifference is far heavier than the weight of anger. Anger at least shows you still care, still feel, still burn. Indifference tells her the fire she used to ignite in you has completely gone out. That quiet refusal to be moved by her chaos becomes the heaviest blow she could face. The power she once thought she had collapses, because a man who no longer reacts is a man she can no longer control. Your silence becomes something she cannot escape, because it transforms into a mirror she never wanted to look into. When you were reacting, when you were explaining yourself, when you were defending your place in her life, she always had something to focus on other than herself. She could twist arguments, shift blame, and distract herself with your emotions. But when you stop responding, there is no noise to cover the truth anymore. The quiet you hold forces her to face herself, and that is where the cracks begin to show. For the first time, she is left alone with the reality of how she treated you. She begins to remember the nights when you stayed up late trying to solve problems she refused to acknowledge. She remembers how you kept giving her patience even when she met you with coldness or distance. She recalls the countless chances, the understanding, the forgiveness you gave without hesitation. But now, there is nothing left for her to hide behind. No safety net, no man to absorb the weight of her choices. Just silence, and in that silence, regret takes root. It grows louder each day, echoing in her mind because silence cannot be argued with. Words can be twisted, anger can be dismissed, but silence is final. It forces her to see not just what she lost, but who she became in the process. And as that mirror reflects back her behavior, she begins to realize the depth of her mistakes. It is not the absence of your love that haunts her most, but the absence of your energy, the absence of your willingness to keep carrying what she refused to fix. That reflection is a truth she cannot run from, and it cuts deeper than anything you could ever say. Here's what unsettles her the most: your freedom. She expected anger, she expected bitterness, she even expected revenge. Those emotions would have told her that she still mattered, that she still had space inside your heart and mind. But when you show none of that, when you step forward without the heaviness she left behind, it throws her into a confusion she cannot explain. She thought losing your love would be the greatest loss, but what she never considered was how much more painful it would be to lose your need for her. The moment you stop waiting by your phone, stop checking her social media, stop replaying the memories in your head, you return to yourself. You rediscover the man you were before she drained you, the man who laughs easily, who sleeps peacefully, who moves through life without fear or hesitation. That man is powerful, and that power terrifies her. Because what can she offer now to a man who no longer needs her validation, her approval, or her attention? Nothing. The control she thought she had slips right through her fingers the moment you choose peace over chaos. She begins to see clearly that your love was never weakness, it was a gift. And now, with your freedom shining through, she understands that she cannot compete with it. She cannot compete with your laughter when it no longer carries pain. She cannot compete with your calm when it no longer hides frustration. She cannot compete with your energy now that it flows into yourself instead of her. This is the freedom that doesn't just distance you from her, it elevates you beyond her reach. And once you taste it, once you realize how powerful your own peace feels, you will never trade it for her games again. It isn't only your silence that she feels, it's the undeniable shift in your energy. Before, she could sense the weight you carried. Your words sounded tired, your presence felt heavy, and your energy was tangled in worry about keeping her satisfied. Even when you smiled, it wasn't full, and even when you laughed, there was a shadow behind it. She could feel the strain, and part of her relied on it, because as long as you were drained, she knew you were still giving everything to her. But then something changes. You no longer move like a man weighed down. Your voice is lighter, your steps firmer, your spirit untangled. You don't look like someone waiting for her to respond, you look like someone too busy living. And that shift doesn't just pass her by unnoticed, it strikes her deeply, because women are attuned to energy in ways men often overlook. She knows when your attention is elsewhere, and now she feels the absence of her hold on you in her bones. She notices you're no longer desperate, no longer explaining yourself, no longer seeking validation in her replies. She sees it in your posture, in the way your eyes carry calm rather than questions. You don't just seem different, you are different. And that unsettles her, because she realizes she is no longer the center of your world. She was only ever a chapter, and you've already begun writing a new one without her name on the page. That energy shift is louder than words. It tells her she's been replaced, not by another woman, but by your focus on yourself, your growth, your future. And that is something she can never compete with, because it's something she can't control. This is the truth that cuts the deepest: she never had power over you, she only had access. For so long she believed the attention you gave her, the time you sacrificed, and the patience you poured out were signs of her control. She thought your love was proof that you couldn't live without her, that your constant effort meant she had some permanent hold on you. But the moment you close the door, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in quiet self-respect, everything becomes clear. She realizes the power she thought she possessed was never hers. It was yours all along, and you allowed her to share in it. She never owned you, she was simply given the privilege of access to your heart, your mind, and your soul. And once you stop handing out that access so freely, the illusion of control crumbles. That is when she begins to understand that love cannot be demanded, and loyalty cannot be manipulated, it must be earned, and she didn't earn it. She only borrowed it. The day you finally choose your peace over her chaos, the moment you value your dignity over her games, is the day she sees the brutal reality. She didn't lose a man who belonged to her, she lost the opportunity to stand beside a man who chose her willingly. And now that choice is gone. That realization is devastating, because it makes her see that the access she once took for granted has expired, permanently. What once made her feel secure now leaves her feeling hollow. She knows she can no longer step into your life whenever she pleases, because the door isn't just closed, it's locked by your strength, and only you hold the key. When you stop chasing, you transform into something unforgettable, and that memory begins to haunt her in ways she never anticipated. She replays the sacrifices you made, the times you bent your schedule just to see her for a moment, the nights you stayed awake talking through problems that she barely acknowledged, the patience you showed when she answered your effort with indifference. She remembers how you forgave her coldness, how you carried the relationship on your back when she refused to lift even a finger. At the time, she didn't value it. She assumed you would always be there, always trying, always willing to give more than you received. But now, there is nothing. Only silence. And that silence is louder than anything you could have said. It isn't the angry words or the desperate pleas that stay in her mind, it's the absence of them. It's the calm that tells her you've truly let go. That deafening quiet echoes every time she thinks of you, because it speaks the truth she doesn't want to face, you are no longer fighting for her. That thought unsettles her more than losing your love, because she realizes she's lost the version of you who cared beyond reason, the man who put her first even when she put him last. And now she knows she can't get him back, because that man is gone for good. The silence becomes a scar in her memory, an unshakable reminder that once a man who truly cared stops trying, there is no return. She may try to forget, she may try to distract herself, but the memory of your calm, your final stillness, will live rent-free in her mind long after you've already moved forward. The hardest truth for her isn't that you stopped loving, it's that you stopped needing. Love can fade, love can be replaced, but need is what kept her secure. As long as she believed you needed her to feel whole, she felt confident that no matter what games she played, no matter how distant she became, you would always come back. But now she sees something she never expected, you've discovered your peace. And once a man discovers peace, he will never trade it for chaos again. She thought she had time. Time to test boundaries, time to disappear and return when it suited her, time to make you prove yourself over and over again. But now she realizes time ran out the moment you chose yourself. You didn't just walk away from her, you walked back into your own life. You stopped depending on her validation to feel worthy. You stopped letting her attention define your value. You stopped looking at her as the center of your world, because you finally remembered you were the center all along. That is the lesson she cannot escape. She didn't lose a man desperate to hold on, she lost a man who once chose her freely. And once a man learns to choose himself first, no woman can ever control him again. That realization shakes her far deeper than jealousy, deeper than anger, because it destroys the illusion of power she thought she held over you. Now she sees that you don't just live without her, you thrive. And that truth will linger with her forever, because nothing rattles a woman more than realizing the man who gave her everything no longer needs her for anything. That isn't revenge. That's freedom, self-respect, and peace.